So you know how a lot of YouTubers out there make Storytime videos where they basically tell you about crazy things that have happened in their lives? And honestly, this has been something that I've wanted to do. Like, I want to make videos about my life experiences and tell you guys crazy stories. But quite frankly, nothing interesting has happened in my life. Like, ever. You think I'm joking, but I'm not. I don't get invited to parties, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do all the cool teenage stuff. I haven't gotten in any crazy experiences with the cops. I haven't done anything really stupid. I really have had a pretty regular and boring life. The problem is that there really isn't any good content to make out of that. But recently, something mildly interesting happened to me. And when I say mildly interesting, I mean mildly interesting. I didn't really have any video ideas, so I decided to tell you about something crazy that happened to me recently. I'm going to be talking to you about the time that I lost my hearing for a week. I know it sounds clickbaity, and it kind of is, but it kind of isn't at the same time. Let me explain. The story starts out on a rainy Tuesday morning, as most crappy days of school would normally start. I didn't really feel very well, but I had to go to school because I had already missed so many days that it would be really bad if I missed more days of school. So I get to school and I start to feel really bad. I have a splitting headache. I feel like I'm gonna throw up. My left ear is ringing and my throat is really sore. After 15 minutes of contemplating if I should ask my teacher if I can go to the nurse or not, I finally asked my teacher if I can go to the nurse. The problem is that this is Spanish class, so I had to ask my teacher in Spanish if I could go to the nurse. This was really awkward because I'm not good at Spanish and it took me like 7 tries, but I eventually got it. So I get up and I go to the nurse's office, right? And of course, karma has finally caught up to me and the nurse isn't there. So ironically, the nurse was sick. And I was thinking to myself, you're the nurse. Like, you're supposed to be immune from getting sick. You're the person who's supposed to protect us when we're sick. How are we supposed to put our trust in your hands if you are able to get sick? Like, you're supposed to not get sick. So of course I go to the office and I tell them my situation. I was like, hey, I'm kind of dying here. The nurse isn't here. What should I do? And they're like, oh, you can just go home, call your parents or whatever. So they just let me call home and ask if my parents can pick me up. But of course, both my parents were at work and they were physically unable to pick me up due to their respective reasons. So I had no way of getting home. So I was sitting in the front office on the phone with my parents, literally crying because I felt like crap and I couldn't go home. So of course the principal walks by and he sees that I'm literally crying and he talks to me and I tell him the situation. And he's like, oh, you can just Uber home. So he lets me Uber home. What a great guy. The Uber driver thought I was like skipping school or something, but I explained to him that I was just really sick and he said, okay, just don't throw up in my car. So he takes me home and I'm finally able to get this long 10-hour sleep. Like, I slept the entire day. And when I woke up, I felt better, but the only problem is that I noticed I couldn't really hear out of my left ear. I didn't really let it bother me. Like, I told my dad, I was like, hey dad, like I can't really hear out of my left ear, but you know, everything else is fine, and we kind of just ignored it, right? But then Friday night rolls around, and you know how Friday night everyone's partying and stuff? Well, I went to bed at 9:30 p.m. because I was just really exhausted. And you know, as I said, I'm feeling great, like I'm feeling fine, but then I wake up at 1 a.m. and my left ear is beating, it's throbbing. Like, this thing is bad. I'm tilting my head back and forth on my pillow and I can feel this liquid inside of my ear going around in my head. It was really disgusting. It really hurt. Like, my ear was in pain. I went down, I got medication, I tried to do everything I could, and I woke up the next day and I actually felt a little better. I went to the doctors anyway because I was like, you know, I don't want to risk it. Like, I'm not trying to die, you know? So my mom drives me to the pediatrician and I tell the doctor what's going on. I was like, hey doctor, this is what's happening. And so basically the doctor gives me like this ear relief thing that allegedly like stops ear pain, which it did its job. I mean, my ear didn't hurt anymore. But the problem is that the next day I couldn't hear out of both of my ears. There was no pain, I just couldn't hear. It hit me when I was trying to watch some television. I was trying to watch some Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, right? And normally I can watch TV when the volume's at like 50%, when it's at like that bar, but I couldn't hear it. I couldn't make it out. And I was thinking to myself, like, what's going on? So I turned this thing up to literally 100, and then it was like, fine. And my parents were staring at me, they're like, what is wrong with you? Why are you listening to the TV this loud? And I was like, I can't hear, like I physically cannot hear. Then I go out to eat with my family, and my family really bothers me, and what I noticed is that I couldn't hear anything that they were saying in the restaurant. Like, I could barely make out anything they were saying. And it was actually really cool. I didn't have to pay attention to my family. I didn't have to talk to them. I just sat there and just waited for my food. And it was honestly awesome. I wasn't thinking, oh, I could have an ear infection. I was just thinking, you know what, this is awesome. I don't have to hear people anymore. Well, then Monday rolls around, and this is where it got bad. I realized that my hearing was just horrible. If I wanted to talk to somebody, I would have to physically, like, be this close to them to understand just a little bit of what they were saying. So normally, like, people will whisper to me during class, try to talk to me, because, you know, I'm a really popular guy. And some girl was asking me, like, a question about, like, the math. Everyone thinks just because I look nerdy, I'm smart, and she was asking me a question about, you know, the math on the board. And she kept asking it to me, and I couldn't hear her, and it was literally the most awkward thing ever because I didn't know what I was supposed to say. So she's looking at me like I'm an idiot because she keeps whispering stuff into my ear, and I can't hear her, and I kind of give her this weird look like, what are you saying? And then she just gives up and then just asks the teacher or whatever. And then another circumstance is I have a teacher who talks, like, really low. Like, the dude doesn't really project very well. So I didn't know what I was supposed to do because the teacher called on me. And this teacher already doesn't like me because whenever he calls on me, I always get the answer wrong. This teacher already thinks I'm an idiot. So when the teacher comes up to me and asks me a question about what we're talking about, I just give him this blank stare and I was like, can you repeat that? He literally has to repeat the question 3 times. I didn't really know what the question was, so I kind of make up an answer. And then he kind of gives me like this look like, wow, like, nice job not paying attention, you idiot. I had one teacher who called on me apparently, and I just didn't answer, and then some kid told me after class, hey Eric, the teacher called on you, and you didn't answer. And I was like, oh, like, that's awkward. But yeah, I couldn't hear out of both of my ears, and this was really bad, and I was thinking to myself, like, what could this possibly be? Like, could this be allergies? Like, what could this be? Let me finally go to a doctor who's competent and knows what they're talking about. I'm not gonna lie, I was actually kind of nervous. Like, I didn't know what the doctor was going to say. I could have easily had some terminal disease and I was going to die in a week. Like, I had no idea what was going on. Worst case scenario could be like a really bad ear infection, but even then I really wouldn't want that. She comes in and she looks at my ear and she's like, oh wow, that's a lot of earwax you got there. So she pulls out this vacuum, and I'm not kidding when I say a vacuum. She pulls out this vacuum, inserts it inside of my ear, and sucks the wax out. I apologize for the graphic imagery. I just think it's necessary so you can know where this is going. So she takes all the wax out, right? And that had nothing to do with the problem. Like, the wax was removed, but it didn't have anything to do with my hearing loss. So then she looks in my ear again, and she's like, oh, yeah, you have some fluid in your ear. And I was like, oh great, probably have an ear infection. So she says that I have fluid and that it's right up against my eardrum. So basically this fluid pushing right up against my eardrum was causing a 30% hearing loss. She's like, all right, we're gonna have to give you some antibiotics. We're gonna have to give you some steroids. And I was thinking to myself, the doctor from before said, oh, we shouldn't use antibiotics. Like, you don't need antibiotics. And now this doctor's saying, oh yeah, the only way to fix it is through antibiotics. The doctor gives me the medication, and then after like 2 hours, I was blowing my nose, and then I got both of my hearing back. That was probably one of the happiest moments of my life. I never realized how much I took my hearing for granted. I hope you guys enjoyed that Storytime video. If you want more Storytime videos, just leave a like and maybe I'll show you some more stories, because I have a few, but as I said, I don't really have that many because my life really isn't that interesting. But if this video gets to like 60 likes, I'll do another Storytime if you want that. But yeah, I mean, I really appreciate everybody watching the videos lately. I'll be making more because I'm not sick anymore. When I wasn't able to hear, it was really hard to record and edit videos because you don't realize how much of a big role hearing plays into that. That's pretty much all I have to say. I really appreciate you watching the video, and I will see you next time.